Well, hello. It's the middle of November, actually November 14th to be exact, and it's really a beautiful day here in the Northeast for November Day. And I'm still out here working in my garden where I started, I guess, in the middle of February, creating some hotbeds, and I'm still out here working. So things went reasonably well this year with some pretty big challenges. So there were a lot of really warm days, and at the same time it was very dry here. We were almost in a drought situation around here, so I had to actually water some of the beds that are a little bit further away from the marsh. However, the tomato plants, which were close to the marsh, grew really well. They didn't seem to be bothered by what is perhaps somewhat salty water. And that went extremely well until we had the tail end of a hurricane come through and kind of knocked down all my tomato plants, or many of them, broke them off and so on. But anyway, even with that, the tomato plants kept doing pretty well, and we still even have maybe our last tomato. It's green, but it was picked a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure it's going to ripen really well, but our tomatoes did really well, even though they were down by the marsh, as did our eggplant, which was pretty close to the marsh, and we still have some fresh eggplant from the garden, which is pretty amazing for November. Also, what really grew well this year, better than ever before, was green peppers. We had a lot of them. They weren't too close to the marsh, but they weren't too far, and we had amazing green peppers this year. So that was pretty good. The other thing that happened this year, of course, with the summer, it was even though it was warm and not a lot of rain, it was very humid. So I had a lot of issues eventually with mildew getting into the plants, especially the squash plants. Later, the cucumber plants, the tomato plants. So it was a big issue, and I did use maybe 2 or 3 occasions, as I mentioned in an earlier video, some potassium bicarbonate solution to spray on the plants, and I'm not sure how well it helped, but I think it did good enough so that the plants kept growing, and particularly the butternut squash. We had amazing big butternut squash plants that did very well, and this is just one of them. I probably have another 10 or 12 inside, and we'll be eating butternut squash for the next 2 or 3 months, I think. So our butternut squash was amazing. We also had some small pumpkins like this, so very nice, and they were growing actually pretty close to the marsh. Some of the vines actually grew over the fence and were actually into the marsh, and that didn't actually do them very well once they got there. The other thing that I tried this year that actually in one small bed up here was to grow some purple potatoes, and it was dry and they needed some watering, but they grew pretty well. I had a pretty good crop of them. This is just 4 of them. I probably have about 40 or 50 in this small bed. And the one thing I did with them from an earlier video was to add some soda to the water that I was watering them with, and it seemed every time I did that, it seemed to perk them up. So it made the soil a little bit more acidic, and it seemed to help a lot to actually get these potatoes growing well. Very nice purple potatoes, which you can't always find in the store. And then we still have a lot of things growing out in the garden. So we still have carrots. Just picked this a little while ago, so still have funny shaped carrot, but carrots and beets, and this is one of the rutabaga I picked earlier this morning. This is sort of a medium-sized rutabaga that I have here. Some of them are maybe twice as large, so they really grow well and nice and big. You can eat the greens if they're still fresh. And I'm going to store all of the root vegetables that are still here in the garden as long as the tops stay pretty green. So that's the carrots until we pull them all up and eat them. The rutabaga, the beets, the turnips, and also have grew some artichokes, which I'll show and talk about a little bit more after this. So this is a ginger plant. We started it just from a little piece of ginger that we had bought at the store that was starting to sprout a little bit. So it's in a pot because it doesn't do well when the weather gets a little colder. I'll have to take it right back in again, and I'm going to try to keep it growing inside all winter. So there are lots of little things like this that I grow inside during the winter when it's too cold outside, just under some fluorescent lights, maybe an incandescent bulb or two. So it's really great ginger. You just pull out a little thing of it and cut off part of the root, and it just keeps growing. So it's, again, you can grow a lot of different things inside and out, and this has been just one of the amazing things that you can grow inside. So one of the really great things about having the hotbeds in the spring was that now I've created changed them into cold frames. So here's a cold frame that I just cover up when it gets really cold at night. So we've had a few nights of frost. I just cover this up, and we still have a lot of lettuces growing in this bed with a few onions. Other beds have arugula, beet greens. I even have a few small radishes growing, so you can grow radishes in these. And I just put the lids down at night, and it hopefully will keep these lettuces and things growing for the next maybe 2-3 weeks. Hopefully, maybe until December. Depends a lot on the weather. And then the other thing, I have some beds that have been here a long time. This is beets. And as I mentioned, I'm going to leave the beets out here in the garden as long as the plants are still growing somewhat. Keeps the beets fresh, and I can just pick them and put them in as we want to have them. So they'll last out here again, maybe a few weeks, maybe longer. One other thing that really grew great this year, and I think maybe this is an original hotbed. If not, I have one or two that are, and this is collard greens. So I've had collard greens and kale growing since February in a couple of these beds, and they just keep producing more and more new leaves. It's been beautiful this year. We've been picking them 2 or 3 times a week, and we've had collards and or kale every time we want them. They're just out here fresh and wonderful to pick them just in the afternoon and then eat them for our evening meal. The other thing that has done really well out here in this part of the garden, and still doing well, is a lot of different kinds of herbs. So I have right behind me, I have parsley. Actually, I have fennel here. I have marjoram. I have thyme, rosemary, and sage, all doing very well right here. And I have also mint, not right here, but I have mint up by the house. It grows like a weed, and I cut it and dry it, and I have mint tea the whole winter. So it's great to have these herbs, and again, I'll cover them up when it gets really cold and hope to keep them going for weeks and weeks yet as well. Two of the other things that I really tried to grow this year was some corn and some sunchokes. So at the other end of the garden, I was trying to grow some corn. Just about the time that big wind came in, knocked the tomato plants down, also knocked the corn over. And then I think the raccoons came. They just love corn. They ate whatever was left after that. So actually we didn't get any corn at all this year. But we had really good bunch of sunchokes here, also known as Jerusalem artichokes. And these got also knocked over. They're kind of a big mess. But they survived, and they're wonderful to grow because you don't have to do anything for them. You don't have to water them. You don't have to fertilize them. Nothing eats them. And they look like a mess now, but actually underneath all of this is huge amounts of Jerusalem artichokes which can be steamed and used like mashed potatoes, or they can be sliced and sauteed. So they're just an easy thing to grow. They grow so well that in the spring probably I will have not been able to get everything out of the ground here, and they'll just start coming up again. They can overtake the garden if you let them. So that's Jerusalem artichokes, and I'll be spending a lot of time the next few weeks actually trying to find all of them in this nest under these plants. Anyway, this has been a great year for me out in the garden, even though it's been challenging at some times. It's kept me busy 2 or 3 hours every day, and it's been very rewarding. Not only just the activity and so on, but having so many really great, fresh, nutritious vegetables to eat all year. So looking forward to starting again probably in February, which is only about 3 months away. Again, creating some hotbeds and getting some things going. And I'm hoping to keep a lot of what I have here still going, maybe even till the end of the year. We shall see. But yeah, it's been really a great year and a wonderful activity.